My name is Kat Fitzpatrick. I work in two mediums currently. One is in photography, where every morning I take my iPhone 16 and I head out to the bay and I go out before the sun comes up because I want to see the light just shining off of everything. That's my spiritual practice and my way of saying good morning every day, to see what surprises are out there. Then when I come back to the house, I have been working for over 20 years in a medium called encaustic. And encaustic means burning in, and it's a method that goes back even further than ancient Egypt, if you can believe that. And there were Greek artists who were following the money. They were making portraits down in Egypt to put on the graves, on the sarcophagus tops, the lids. And so it is something that's made out of beeswax, damar crystals, which give the beeswax a little more hardness, and then powdered pigment. And so I mix those things up, heat everything up, and then paint with that. That's my medium.
Cool. Thank you. So what drew you to this specific medium?
I was flipping through an art magazine one day and I saw this tiny little square of a picture and I fell right through the middle and I'm still falling. And when I read what this medium was, it was encaustic. And what was so marvelous to me about it was that you could see past the surface down into the wax, which I thought was just the coolest thing ever, ever, ever. And then once you smell it, you realize this is great. Sometimes I have bees who come to the window and hover. And that led me to becoming a beekeeper for a time. I met my former husband in New Orleans when we were both students, and he was a Florida boy. And so we moved to Florida after we got married and had our first child there. And he is an architect and wanted to get back to New Orleans to the friendships that he had there. He loved it, and I had family and cousins and sisters and brothers here, and so we decided to come. And my mother, being the wily manipulator she was, found this little house that used to be here, and it was affordable, and so she kept us from going to New Orleans by buying it. She says, "Look, I found a house for you." And it was close to cousins, my sister, brother, everything, so it was like meant to be. So he commuted, and I fell in love with Bay St. Louis, and I'm still falling. You know, I gripe sometimes like an old lady will. I'm 76, and I remember when it was smaller, and I remember when it was this and that. But in all of that, it is still the most magical place where it's small enough that you know the people that you're running into. I see people at Frugal's that I see all the time, and we dance down the aisles together, and it feels doable, like the size of this community. And it's healthier than a lot of communities in its racial blending. And I was part of St. Rose for many, many years and loved that. And it's just a small enough town where it just feels like you can make a difference and you are seen and you see other people. Every time we express ourselves through those channels, we are closer to our full humanity. And that's not something you can fabricate with AI. It's something that is, like I said, I think it's God-given, and I think it needs to be expressed. And in the expression of it, you spark other people who express themselves, and then you have a real conversation. I'm kind of a little bit of a hermit, to be truthful about it. The art that I make, sometimes I joke and say I'm kind of living in a cloister. It's kind of like a monastery of one. I'm the mother superior, but I'm also the lowly nun at the same time. And my children are grown and launched and off, and grandchildren are doing what they do. And so I have plenty of time to express myself and to get really quiet and to have those conversations. I feel like the best art that I make is a conversation between what I think I know and what I'm being surprised by. And I don't know where it comes from. I don't know if it's a deeper part of me. I don't know whether it's an electric current that flows through everything, but I just call it magic, and I believe in it and I work with it.
As part of the America we're looking at what our community, what other communities in the United States could learn from our community.
Well, she who must not be named must be named. I've told friends that I feel like as a community we were road tested through Katrina, that we were brought to our knees, and we knew in a very, very real way that we can't make it without each other. And I think that the last few years have really divided our country and made us forget that no matter what your beliefs are, we pull together when it's a matter of survival. And I think that we are once again needing to focus on, if we're going to survive as a planet, a community, a country, everything, we need to be able to pull together and put our love for each other ahead of our opinions. So the main ingredients are, these are little pastilles of beeswax, and they are mixed with Damar crystals. This is a crystal that's kind of like when you play with a pine tree and you get the sap all over your hands. It's that, but it's a fir tree. And you can look at it and it's sort of looks like amber a little bit. So this gets ground up and put together with the beeswax and melted. And it goes through this stage where it looks almost like gooey candy, and then it suspends finally. And then that's in the mothership. The mothership is over here, and I'll bring you over there to take a look. So this is an electric wok, and I have bristle brushes because you need to have heat resistance. And then every piece that I make begins with the first layer that is a clear wax. And what this does is it seals the wood and provides a base for the colors that are going to come later. So part of what's happening is this is sinking into the wood and closing the pores of the wood. And each layer that I put on becomes a little bit, you can see it's a little bit more opaque. So it's not like a clear medium exactly. But I wish we could do smell-o-vision and you could smell it.
I'm sure that's coming.
So the next thing that has to happen is it has to be sealed with heat. So over time, I've overcome my fears of working with fire. And so when I teach classes in this, I teach other people to overcome their fear of fire as well. So if you can zero in on that, you can see that it's fusing, it's becoming almost liquid looking. You see that? And so every layer that goes on top of this, whether it's colored or clear, has to have this heat in between, because what that's doing is called fusing. And that's what gives it the strength to have survived. I had pieces that survived Katrina. I had paintings that did not survive that were on canvas, but all of the ones from encaustic made it, which I think is pretty amazing when you think about beeswax. You think of it being sort of soft and vulnerable. Okay, so these little tiny pinpricky holes, those are little gases that are in the wood that are coming up in the surface, and they will eventually get popped. Okay. Birch is a light colored wood, which works well with what I'm trying to do. And it doesn't tend to have a really strong grain, which also works to my advantage. So it'll get whiter and then it'll get clearer as it cures. So this surface can be carved. So the thing that I love also about this medium is that it can accept, it's still a little bit soft. Let's work over here. This one is harder. So this is just a drawn edge.
It's like a crayon.
It is. It's a graphite crayon. So there are some of these that are like colored or black and white. And then everything that you do needs to get fused. And so even that little drawing that I just did, when I heat the wax that's up underneath it, it will hold it, the crayon, so that when I rub my finger across it afterwards, it won't smear. It'll be embedded in the wax, if that makes sense. You can do collage, which means you can take papers and embed those in here as well. And there is a little bit of that in here. Now I want to show you, this is really fun, very frustrating as well, but this is what happens when too much heat. You can end up with a puddle, just a... And sometimes those are happy accidents that you can build on, and sometimes it's just, well, time to put another layer on. But that's why you have to kind of pay attention to what you're doing. Yeah.
Cool. I think that one was a happy accident.
That one was fun. So...
Now this is the wax with the color in it.
This is the wax that has the pigment. That's what we call... This is... Here we go. Look at that color. Can you go inside? Is that not the most beautiful blue you ever saw? That is what I like to work with. But that one is a ultramarine blue. And you can, depending on how much ultramarine blue you put in, or any other color for that matter, you can get a veil of color. Like right here, I have a lot of the clear medium. That's what we call that in the wok. So you can see through it. But then others are more opaque because they have more of the pigment in there. So if you wanted to cover up an old mistake, you would want more opacity, a more opaque color. But part of the thrill is layering things and seeing what happens. So you can see through that blue to the orange that's underneath.